Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving straight into Module 25, Chapter 1. We're going to put on our detective hats and step into the really complex, high-stakes world of ISO 14001-2026. Specifically, we're investigating a super crucial piece of environmental management systems, how auditors actually verify genuine top management leadership. This explainer is going to equip you with the mindset of an investigator, helping you look way past the surface to uncover what's really driving an organization's environmental strategy. Let's get into it.
So, I want to start by asking you a question. Think about it. Is a signed policy enough? Like, does a CEO's signature at the bottom of a beautifully framed environmental document actually prove genuine leadership commitment? Well, for a long time in the auditing world, yeah, the presence of that signature kind of just checked the box. But as we're going to see today, under the 2026 standards, that signature, it's literally just the starting point of the investigation.
Because honestly, there is a massive difference between a paper tiger and reality. On one hand, you've got the ceremonial signature, right? A piece of paper hanging in a lobby that has absolutely zero impact on how the business actually runs. On the other hand, you have active governance. This is where leadership influence actually manifests through real decision-making, resource allocation, and accountability. And as an auditor detective, your main job is to figure out exactly which one you're looking at.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our investigative briefing for today. First, the leadership illusion. Second, unlocking Annex A.5. Third, verifying strategic alignment. Fourth, practical business integration. And finally, writing defensible findings.
All right, Section 1, the leadership illusion, looking at the paper.
So what do we actually mean by superficial compliance? Notice the key word here, isolated. You see, when an environmental management system, an EMS, exists in a silo, completely separated from the core business strategy, it totally fails to demonstrate any real leadership. It's treated like a parallel administrative chore rather than a real driver of operational excellence.
So what are the clues at the scene? Well, you might find a policy that's signed but totally ignored by management on a day-to-day basis. You'll probably see strategic decisions consistently prioritizing short-term financial gains over environmental goals. You might even spot environmental roles that were delegated without any actual authority. Ultimately, the whole system just functions as a reactive compliance activity, just putting out fires rather than actually driving performance.
Moving on to Section 2, unlocking Annex A.5, the auditor's decoder ring.
Now, Annex A5 is not just some new set of rules or another checklist for you to memorize. It's actually an interpretive guide. It's designed to clarify how top management is supposed to integrate environmental responsibility into their governance, strategy, and operations. It basically gives auditors the conceptual clarity they need to evaluate whether leadership involvement is authentic and deeply integrated, or if it's just, ceremonial.
And the standard makes a definitive shift here. Quote, leadership within ISO 14001-2026 is no longer interpreted as a ceremonial endorsement, but as an active governance function. The standard demands that environmental performance is absolutely not a side project. It has to be an integral component of how the organization is governed right from the very top.
All right, Section 3, verifying strategic alignment, establishing the motive.
The source material makes this really clear. It says environmental policies should be consistent with organizational vision and values, ensuring alignment between sustainability commitments and operational realities. So, if you walk in and see a generic, copy-pasted policy template hanging on the wall that says absolutely nothing about the company's specific environmental impacts or its context, you've got a major red flag on your hands. The policy has to be intricately tailored to what the company actually does.
Let's see how this plays out in practical auditing. The illusion of leadership really relies on weak evidence. Think generic policies on the wall, isolated green goals, or those symbolic sustainability declarations. But the reality of active governance? That requires strong evidence. We're talking environmental KPIs sitting right there in executive scorecards, hard capital investment in green tech, and eco-design being fundamentally integrated into product development. That is what active governance really looks like.
Let's look at a real-world scenario straight from the text to put this into perspective. Imagine a manufacturing plant is planning a major facility expansion. If leadership is truly committed, they don't wait until the building is built to suddenly think about the environment. No, they evaluate emissions, waste generation, and water usage right at the beginning, during the feasibility studies and the investment decision-making process. This proves that environmental responsibility is actually woven into their strategic planning.
Which brings us to Section 4, Practical Business Integration, Following the Money.
Okay, so to prove that environmental responsibilities are truly integrated, you literally have to follow the evidence deep into the organization's operations. Dig into procurement policies. Are they actively selecting suppliers based on environmental criteria? You need to scrutinize operational planning and investment approvals. Inspect those enterprise risk registers to see if environmental risks are listed right up there alongside financial risks. And finally, track down cross-functional accountability. This responsibility shouldn't just be sitting on the shoulders of one isolated environmental manager.
And you literally have to follow the money and the resources. Leadership absolutely must ensure the resources necessary for the EMS are available, and this means tangible financial investment, robust technological infrastructure for monitoring, and serious competence development. By that, I mean actual training programs that give employees the real skills they need to hit those environmental targets.
So, the crucial takeaway here is this. If environmental priorities do not influence procurement decisions or capital investments, then business integration is entirely missing. Period. If a company claims to care about pollution prevention, but then they consistently turn around and buy the cheapest, most environmentally damaging raw materials, well, leadership is failing to integrate the EMS into their business processes.
And finally, Section 5, Writing Defensible Findings, Delivering the Verdict. Now, I know writing a finding against top management can be a bit daunting, but Annex A.5 gives you the interpretive clarity to translate observable organizational behaviors into strong, completely defensible audit conclusions. It lets you confidently state exactly why a particular condition is a failure of leadership, making sure your findings aren't just subjective, but firmly grounded in evidence-based reasoning. So here is exactly how you build an airtight nonconformance rationale. First, you identify the operational gap, like, say, finding repeated waste management issues across multiple audits. Next, investigate the oversight. Did leadership actually provide the budget or the training to fix this? And finally, connect the dots. If leadership failed to allocate resources or ensure corrective action, you link that operational failure straight back to the top.
This is absolutely crucial because misclassification weakens the entire environmental management system. If you incorrectly classify a leadership weakness as just some minor operational or procedural nonconformance, the organization is only going to apply a surface-level fix. But by using Annex A.5 to address the root governance causes, you ensure the organization achieves real, continual improvement, rather than just temporary procedural tweaks. Which brings us to the ultimate question for any auditor or organizational leader. When you look at your environmental management system, what do you really see? Does your audit reveal a paper system or a living strategy? Keep that provocative thought in mind the next time you look at a signed environmental policy. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.